This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Thank you so much for downloading today's podcast on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by MyBookie. For all your betting needs this season, check out mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. Use promo code Detroit100 and they'll double your first deposit. You play, you win, you get paid. Again, go visit, enter great contest, and if you're definitely into the action, you don't want to go to any other place besides MyBookie. Visit mybookie.ag, promo code Detroit100. Fellas, what if I told you there was a way you could increase your performance in the bedroom? You could get that extra confidence to please your lady friend. Listen up, BlueChew.com. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. Blue Chew is the fast and easy solution for any man looking to enhance their performance and step up their game. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. Why not be the MVP of the bedroom? You know that there's opportunity to enhance your experience, enhance the pleasure. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code Detroit. All you got to do is just pay the $5 shipping and handling fee. That's BlueChew.com, promo code Detroit. BLUE Chew.com. BlueChew.com, promo code Detroit to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back to Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What's up, everybody? It's the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am in studio.
Yes!
It doesn't sound all grainy. I don't actually know what it sounds like because I don't listen to myself on the podcast. How does it sound, John?
You sound great, brother. Look, we wouldn't have been able to grow the network without guys like you, Vinny, Adam, Vito, and now we have reached episode 200.
Number 200 is special.
That's why we have...
I have to come in at least every 50 episodes now.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's why we got to have you here, man. It's not the same, but at the same time, the technology, the marvels of modern technology make it so that I can just call you up and record at any time. So for me, it sounds the same. I feel like when we do talk, we definitely have the same vibe. I mean, you and I both support the Michigan State Spartans. We're going to talk about that in the second half of the podcast. I love talking college football with you. But at the same time, we talk sports, whether it's on the phone or whether you're here. Look, I would always much rather you be here. But look, you've done some great things. You got a youngster that's swimming. You got stuff going on. You're taking vacations. I'm taking vacation. So sometimes, same with Vito, same with Adam. Sometimes it just makes it hard to travel to one central location. But with technology, baby, and the fact that we can record it at any time, I love it. And that's why we've been able to put out 200 Motor City Sports Rant, and that's thanks largely to everyone's support. I'm so happy that you're here, and obviously, you know, you've seen it. Everyone's seen it. I'm covering the Lions, baby. On Monday, I was in the locker room, and it was a great experience. I was sharing with.
And you talked to Matthew Stafford.
I got a chance to talk to the athletes. They let me in.
To Carry-On Johnson, right?
No.
And you talked to TJ Hockey Mom. Right?
They weren't there. They were there, but they all had their backpacks on, and they were like, I think it was the end of the day. I think probably their day starts at 6 a.m., and so by 2:30, they all looked like they wanted to zoom out of there, so I get it. That's a long media session, 45 minutes, to get as many quotes as you can to get some inside info. Could you imagine if, you know, you're an NFL athlete and you got to talk to the media about 45 minutes 3 to 4 times a week, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I'd just be like, I'm hiding. But for me, I think I'd be different. I'd love it. I'd come out every single time, stand there and just answer questions.
Nobody would come and talk to you.
That's probably what would happen.
The smallest guy in the room.
That's what would happen is that
you're like the little long snapper.
I'd be like, I want to talk. I got things to say. And then the next day, the coach would be like, this guy talks too much and I get cut. But it's a great experience. It's far exceeded my expectations. I thought it would be interesting. I thought I'd be, a little bit uncomfortable. No, I've figured my way around. I understand there's a lot of media you can follow. So you can just sit back and listen to conversations. You can sit back and see the dynamic between the reporters, see the dynamic between the athletes and the reporters. So I'm taking this opportunity to just sit back and learn and put out content. And I thank everybody that supports the network and Maven Sports and you and I and the Motor City Sports Rant. It's a great experience, man. But it's starting to turn a little bit now since Game 3, Jason, with the injuries to Ragnow and to Jared Davis, and now Michael Lombardi on a podcast. He kind of came out, I don't know if it's true or not, but he said he talked to a source that's telling him that Matthew Stafford maybe is not 100% healthy, maybe his back is not all the way healed, and he said that the number one team that's poised to earn the number one draft pick next year is the Lions. He's down on the Lions. He says he doesn't see it. He doesn't see the improvements. And that goes inside with other writers that have said the same thing. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy to see the wild swings. But the over-under is around 6.5 right now. But I think you and I are kind of in the same boat, knowing that if the Lions stay healthy with Matthew Stafford and some semblance of a run game, I think it's fair to say this is an 8-win team. It's not a 10-win team, in my opinion. Outside of maybe some things happening in the division, I don't see that. But I don't see this team. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. Usually my skepticism is high. I don't see that. I see 7-8 wins, maybe a little bit more if things shake out the right way. Maybe not because of the Lions, but because the NFL, by and large, isn't all that great around the division and around the teams that they're playing. I see 8 wins.
Yeah, and I feel like Michael Lombardi might have a vendetta against the Lions. I don't know if maybe he had a trip with Matt Patricia and he stiffed him on a bill, but I don't know. He's been the past couple months he's been dogging on the Lions. So 6.5 wins. I mean, I would obviously take the over right now because if you have a fully healthy Lion team, I think they are more than capable of at least getting 8 wins with what they have on offense. If from what we've seen, TJ Hawkinson does look like a solid tight end prospect, and I think it's yet to be seen if it will actually translate into the regular season. But I think he has all those tangibles. I think it's possible, and clearly Matthew Stafford does have a connection with him. So if everyone's healthy, you have Stafford healthy, you have Kerryon Johnson healthy, you have the rest of the running backs, the wide receivers, essentially healthy, then we're going to get close to 8 wins because our defense is also really solid. And I think the Jared Davis injury, I'm not sure how long he's going to be out. It doesn't sound like they're going to put him on IR, so that means that he's likely to come back in the first half of the season. From what they've been saying, Jelani Tavai seems like he was really going to be kind of the middle linebacker. He was that big middle linebacker that Matt Patricia liked. And from, Jalen Reeves-Maben has had a solid camp. So I think we have an interesting lineup, and if things can break the right way, we've seen just in last year, I feel like the Chargers, They won a bunch of really close games, and they could have gone from a really good season to a really bad season. And the same thing can happen for the Lions.
Yeah, see, with the Detroit Lions, you see the semblance of an organized team. You have a defense that's poised to put pressure on the quarterback to stop the run. You see that the linebackers are steadily improved. Now, the biggest question mark is going to be who's going to be alongside Darius Slay there in the secondary. And you say, okay, can the team remain healthy? But on that defense, many people think this defense can be a top 10 defense. And last year, you saw some takeaways. You saw the opportunity for extra possessions. Now, that offense stagnated at times, and it always seemed like the Lions were forced to come back in the fourth quarter. But this year, if they can get out to some leads, look, that first game versus Arizona, you're playing a rookie quarterback. And I know last year the same scenario played out at home in front of a national audience, and everybody in the world was really livid and upset regarding Matt Patricia's first game because of how bad they looked. But this go around on the road, I know the history dictates that the Lions don't play well in Arizona, but I see potentially the Detroit Lions really doing some things against Kyler Murray. So right there, you're right off the bat. Maybe the second week doesn't go your way, but up and down I see this season. I don't see major swoons, especially if Matthew Stafford's healthy. Did you see the game versus the Bills? The offense got into some rhythm. He was able to throw the ball to Hawkinson. The touchdown pass to Ty Johnson was solid. You have leaders in Amendola, Marvin Jones, and Kenny Galladay. It's not a bad team.
And if they can stop dropping balls that are thrown right into them.
Exactly. If they can make plays and don't beat themselves up, they should fall into at least 7-8 wins. I don't see all the negativity, but at the same time, if it happens, you and I will sit here and or we'll talk on the phone and we'll say, well, it's we're not surprised by it. But I think Matt Patricia is trying to turn things around, and there's a different vibe. There's a more friendly vibe in the locker room. There's a little bit more of an upbeat attitude regarding what's been going on. So I think that the Detroit Lions are making their best effort, their best play to have a good season. I think it's going to happen. Look, is 8 wins a good season? It's better than 6. Is there a chance for this team to make the postseason? I mean, for that to happen, what's probably likely is going to need to happen is maybe a couple of key injuries to the Vikings and Packers. You're going to need potentially a couple guys that are unsung heroes to step up. It could happen. But for guys like Mike Lombardi, for those that say the Lions are 3-win teams, I think they're closer to an 8-win team than they are to a 3-win team. So
I think they're closer to a 10-win team than they are closer to a 3-win team.
Yeah, I just don't see it. And so maybe there is an axe to grind. But if he's got a source that says Matthew Stafford is injured, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to swallow. Does any sign that you've
Stafford
seen?
didn't look injured in the
exactly.
game.
No, he didn't look injured at all.
And on that, I want to say it was probably his last play. I think he got blown up pretty good. And I think he's fine. He got up. It didn't look like he was limping. And, I think just, players are in pain constantly. As we've seen over just this past weekend of players talking about what they go through day in and day out, that there's going to be pain. And you know what? Maybe Matthew Stafford isn't 100% right, but as long as he's out there and actually producing, that's all that really matters.
Now, everyone's talking about it. Ragnow and Jared Davis go down in that game. Jared Davis, the second play of the game. Come on. Everyone freaked out. Everyone harkens back to Cam Newton leaving the game in a walking boot. Everyone's talking about it. I've read, some solutions. People are talking like, okay, this preseason is too long. The problem is the money. They get a lot of money. 40,000 people showed up to Ford Field. That's a lot of money to try and recoup. But the NFL is making a lot of money. So I saw a scenario where there's just 1 or 2 preseason games and a 17-game regular season. I saw that, and I'm like, that's not a bad solution. You cut out just maybe 2 or 3 of the games, and you allow the regular season to extend a little bit, because the benefit of that is guys that are, not long for the league, guys that are going to stay 2 or 3 years, they're going to get 1 or 2 or 3 years more of game checks by having one more game, in the season. Meaning, let's say, for example, you play 17 games, you get that extra, you get paid when you play a game. So if you play
paid,
3,
but if it can also mean smaller paychecks if it's 17 weeks.
Well, no, obviously, Jason, the union is not going to advocate for lower paychecks. You get another game check. You don't get paid a lot of money in the preseason, so if you play another game, you get more money.
Yeah, but if your base pay is like $850,000, then it's $850,000 over 16 weeks or $850,000 over 17 weeks. There's no real difference, I wouldn't see, unless they make it standard that people are going to make more money now.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing it, and I'm like, I like that. Do you see the league ever changing the preseason? And do you agree with it? Because if they don't, we're going to be seeing a lot more of this, because inherently, anytime a group of men play football against each other and it's tackling involved and, there's violence, and at any play, someone could just accidentally roll up on you, especially with these guys are huge, and the freak nature of these collisions, there's no way to avoid these injuries. So either you don't ever play a starter, you never play 1A ever in the preseason, or you say, you know what, we're just going to actually make the change and really listen to these guys and just not let them really, what benefit does the Panthers have now that Cam Newton's gone? It's not. And now the Lions suffer too, especially with Ragnow and Davis, potentially speaking, before we heard the nature of their injury, there was serious concern that, those were serious injuries. So I think some change has to take place.
Yeah, and I think if it's going to happen, it'll probably be in the next couple of years, because, the collective bargaining agreement is up. It's going to be up soon, and there's already talks of them, negotiating. I'm not sure if we're going to get another holdout, but I think if it's going to change, it'll happen sooner rather than later. If they go by this next collective bargaining agreement and they haven't changed it, then I think they're just going to go, then why bother? The smart money, if they're worried about, I don't know, it just makes them greedy. If they're worried about the money that they make off of concessions and ticket sales from meaningless preseason games where it ends up affecting you during the regular season. how many teams have lost starters for the entire season in a meaningless game? If you want to gain some PR, create more of those family events. Maybe charge $5 a person at that point, and then you can still charge them for concessions, and then donate the ticket sales, but keep the concessions. But something like that would be better suited, and you can still go out there and practice. You could even make it so and this is a little crazy idea, and it probably will never come, but make some scrimmage, like how they do the joint practices. Let people come to that, let them pay for that, and don't have preseason games.
No preseason at all, huh? Just joint practices. And the problem is, Jason, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of gates. Remember that, 10 games, 40,000 people paid hard-earned money to show up to that game. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money potentially across the league. And I don't see them doing it, but I don't know. It's I'm maybe more in favor of you keep the 4 preseason games, but no starter ever suits up. Not at all. If you're 1A on the depth chart, that tells you, hey, if you're playing, you got to fight for your job. And that's just the way it is. Never. Because here's the thing. Ragnow and Davis are so important. Without them, the Detroit Lions can't win 8 games. Literally, without them.
I feel like there's no way you do that, because I think that's the whole mantra of the NFL is that there's always should be an open position battle. When the Seahawks, when they drafted Russell Wilson and they paid all that money to that scrub from Green Bay, if if that guy, he was automatically the starter, how would that even work? There's going to be an open battle for everything. So it's just it's trying to find a balance.
So true. Which injury do you think would have hurt the Lions more if it was really serious, Ragnow or Jared Davis? I think the talk is that Ragnow's injury would have affected the offense a lot more because Jelani Tavai is kind of in there. Jalen Reeves-Maben could also fit in there, and they could have maybe made up for the production of Jared Davis, whereas Ragnow was going to play center, and that's a key position that he was comfortable with that obviously is so important for an offensive line. So many people, and probably myself included, believe that Ragnow's injury is probably way more severe.
Hands down, Ragnow it's clearly, if there's one thing that I take away from this preseason, actually, I'm going to take away 2 things. One, if Matthew Stafford goes down, our team is screwed. Josh Johnson it's a breath of fresh air, but we're screwed if Matt Stafford goes down. But number 2 is that we have 0 depth on our offensive line. And if any of those guys go down, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, any of the other scrubs we got on the right side, those guys go down, we are going to be in a tough position because we seem like a sieve on the offensive line in our backups. So, I don't know. Maybe does Bob Quinn have to go out and draft an entire draft board of offensive linemen to get this fixed? But, Ragnow, hopefully he gets back soon. But outside of him just being the center and being kind of the focal point of that offensive line, because Graham Glasgow, and I'm not too worried about Glasgow playing at center because he played all last year at center, and I think him and Stafford still do have that connection. But it's who's going to fill in that spot for Glasgow now, and that's what worries me.
So I want to transition to the news of the league. Everybody was shocked that Andrew Luck retired, and how lucky is he? Signs a deal, $24 million, he gets to keep it. Oh my gosh! Whereas everyone now in Detroit's like, look how bad the Lions look for asking. Calvin Johnson, who everybody knew was showing up at 5 a.m. every day, was hobbled, was just a guy that near the end was trying so hard to get on the field, but it just didn't work out. He lost his love of the game, and the Lions said, hey, give us the money back. Whereas a guy like Andrew Luck gets to keep the entire $24 million. Everyone was shocked. There's really a lot of things that people are talking about, but a couple of the items that we got to discuss are, do you care that the fans booed? And 2, do you ever see Andrew Luck suiting up again and playing in the National Football League?
So where do you want to start? You want to talk about the money first?
Let's talk about that. That's crazy.
With the money, I think it shows. I think there's something. It's got to be from ownership because, man, the only thing that stayed consistent with the Lions, because they did it with Barry and they did it with Megatron, and it was completely different management, GM, coaches. The only thing consistent is the Fords. That's a clear thing. And, I bet Bob Quinn, he probably didn't want to ask for that money back, or whoever was the GM. Was it Mayhew when Calvin Johnson retired? He probably didn't want to ask him for that money back. This guy goes out there and kills for your team. And Andrew Luck, as many injuries he had, he gave everything he had to the Indianapolis Colts. And I think if, it does, it's got to be tough, and I mean, it does, he does have the luxury of, he's well off. He doesn't have to worry about, making money for the rest of his life. And where the NFL is a culture where guys are playing and they'll play through injuries because they need that paycheck. So, I think it's good on the Colts because, the dude earned his money. He was a great quarterback. He gave everything to the team and the city.
The Lions asked for the money back, man. It's unbelievable because league-wide, it's so unusual. Me personally, $24 million is a lot. I would have said, okay, you can keep some of it, but you can't keep all of it.
It's a pure business move. There's nothing about a team or, having a family or like a franchise. That's a pure business move because they can ask for that money back. They did.
They did. And actually, at that time, people, weren't as mad because they could have used that money toward signing a player. So that was kind of the spin that was put out there was, hey, we used that money to sign other players. So the $24 million, obviously, in this situation is going to hurt potentially the Colts, but I see it as you don't want to burn the bridge because the dude's 29, 30. In a year or two, if he decides, hey, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go, I'm going to give it one more shot, you actually have to build me an offensive line, and I will come and suit up, heck, I say you don't burn that bridge. But how much money you got to have just to say, hey, here's $24 million to just walk away. I couldn't do it. I'd be like, hell no. You give me back, out of the 24, you give me back 13 and you keep 11. Period.
See, the thing is, though,
give me back $13 million. You're not here.
How much money did they ask for like Calvin back? That wasn't like $2 million.
It was like $1 to $2 million.
And so, you know how much money these owners have?
Yeah, but you know how much money?
These are billionaires.
But do you know how much money Calvin has? Rumors are
he's not a billionaire.
Oh, that's true. Not
Calvin
as
Johnson, Andrew Luck are not billionaires. Jim Irsay, Martha Firestone Ford are billionaires.
Man, crazy stuff. But do you ever see Andrew Luck potentially coming back?
So the other two issues, Andrew Luck coming back, I don't know. I highly doubt it just because I feel like he's gone through so many injury issues. I think it would have to be like a perfect storm scenario. And I think it would be like 1 year he comes back, he tries to get a ring. Outside of that, I don't see guys just coming back for no reason. If he really wanted to stay, he could have stayed. And he could have taken this entire year and rehabbed and people would have been fine with it. He would come back and he'd still be a top quarterback. So I think I think what most people don't realize, and because it is hard for fans at times, because we just see it as you get to play a game for your career. You get to play a game while I'm out here busting my butt for 40 hours a week getting paid squat. But what people don't realize is that they are giving everything of their body and their mind. So, and it's hard for me too, because I can't, that kind of money, it's unfathomable to me.
Yeah, it is to me too. That's why if I have it, even if I'm an owner, I'm trying to hold on to it. That's how these owners get rich. It's not by giving away money, but this is a different situation. You know why? And here's partly how I rationalize it. You know how much money probably Andrew Luck made them? He probably made them over $70 million in jersey sales and attendance. So you look at it like, okay, he made us probably $250 million, If not more. Do we really want to ask for it back? That's really tacky. And that's why everyone is really up in arms regarding what the Lions did, is that Calvin made them millions. You're really going to ask him for two? You can make that in one preseason game, right. One gate, a couple hot dogs. You and I have a DSP staff party. We'll crush that. You know what I mean? That's unbelievable. it's just not right what the Lions did. And I think eventually speaking, they'll make it right because the pressure that they're under day in, day out, especially when something like this happens. Again, everyone notes back in Detroit, all the beat writers are like, hey, remember what the Lions did? So I think that they will make it right.
And I think the fans, as time goes on, they'll probably regret what they did on that day when they booed him going off the field but I also understand it as a fan, which I know everyone's saying, you can't boo this man. And I get that part of it, but I also understand fans because this is your team. This is what sometimes you give your money for one time a week to go see your team play. Andrew Luck, if he wanted to retire, he could have retired at the end of last season. He could have stayed on the injured reserve this year, just retired at the end of this season, and put his team in better position. But he chose to do it 3 weeks into the preseason. Now your team is forced with going into the season with a backup quarterback. Yeah, I'd be pissed. Like if Stafford did the same thing, I'd be hella pissed off at Stafford. Even if Aaron Rodgers did it in Green Bay. Like he said after, game 3 of the preseason, he says, I'm done. My body can't take it anymore. You don't think Packers fans would be just livid? It would literally happen anywhere because your team is now, they go down to number 32.
All right, Jason, you got one bold prediction for the Lions? Anything bold that's on your mind? Are you willing today, episode 200, to state that this is a playoff team? Do they win the division for the first time in your lifetime?
I don't think they're a division winner. That might be another
pipe dream.
It's a year or two off. What I will say, my bold prediction will be Kerryon Johnson, 2,000 yards from scrimmage.
All-purpose yards?
All-purpose yards from scrimmage.
Nice. My bold prediction, Matthew Stafford, 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
Whoa.
I guess
that's not in the realm of possibility. I think he's done that before, hasn't he?
Yeah. 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and he shuts everybody up because what better motivation than, new offensive coordinator. You want to shut everybody up. You want to really respect your wife, and you want to honor her and show everybody that, hey, I'm firmly entrenched as the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. So I think he does have a bounce back year. Now, the odds of that happening, probably 20%.
How many of those 40 touchdowns are going to Hackensack?
22.
Oh, man. He's the next coming of Gronk.
No, 22 to tight ends. I'll say probably 8 to him, spread out to Jesse James, and then the rest of the receivers probably. The tight ends are going to get a brunt of the touchdowns, in my opinion.
I don't know if a brunt. I mean, I guess 4. I'd say 12.
Okay, I could ask you, who gets more touchdowns combined, Jones Jr. and Galladay or the tight end group?
Jones Jr. and Galladay.
You think so?
Yeah.
I totally disagree. I think the tight ends get the majority of the love. You don't draft and bring on a free agent tight end without wanting to utilize them. I think they're the easy target. They're big boys, and I think that Stafford's going to definitely find them in the end zone. So I think that, we'll definitely look back at the end of the year. I think that the majority of the touchdown passes will be to the tight ends.
I want to believe that Hawkinson's going to come out and have a great year. I'd love to see 8 to 10 touchdowns. That would be beyond my wildest dreams. But I just think I don't see a ton going to Jesse James. I think he'll be a yardage use. But I think in the end zone, you're looking at Marvin Jones, you're looking at Kenny Galladay, you're looking at then TJ Hawkinson, or a wheel route with either Kerryon Johnson or Ty Johnson, hopefully.
All right, I do want to show love to one of the sponsors of the Motor City Sports Rant. I want to tell you about the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all deals and for all information that you need to find regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, go online today and check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. So did you get a chance to check out Florida, Miami?
I didn't. I really did want to see it, and I regret not being able to.
It was
watch.
Wild. It was sloppy, man. What a weird way to start college football. it was interesting. College football's back. Many people are now dialed in. They want to see. Michigan opens their season this Saturday, 7:30 under the lights, Middle Tennessee. I think it's
Middle Tennessee.
I'll be there, but it'll be an interesting experience. I think that many people, in regards to Michigan, want to see what that offense looks like. Similarly, down the road in East Lansing, many people want to see how that offense is going to look. Now, you said that, you peeked in a little bit, not as much in years past. I do want to start with this. Let's start with Michigan, and we'll end with Michigan State. In terms of this season, okay, if Michigan, let's say, falls short of their goals, but they win 10 games, is that good enough? Is Jim Harbaugh doing a good enough job? Because remember, there's a couple different layers of success that you could have. Obviously, Brady Hoke was losing to teams he absolutely should not have lost to. Many people felt like this is not Michigan football. We want to move forward. Jim Harbaugh comes in, and his standard is different. He's won 10 games. He's beaten his rival, Michigan State. Now, has he beaten his ultimate rival in Ohio State? No.
Hasn't won the Big Ten championship either.
And he hasn't won the big game. He's lost a lot of bowl games in lopsided fashion. A lot of times in the biggest games, the offense doesn't look good, and many people are pointing to Jim Harbaugh in terms of the coaching.
Yeah, so he beats up on all the cupcakes.
He beats up on all the cupcakes, basically. You said it exactly in terms of how people are criticizing him. If he does that again this year, is it time then to say, you know what, let's move on? Because here's the thing. If you move on, I don't know if there's really a guy out there outside of Saban or Urban Meyer himself that's better than Harbaugh. And that's the dilemma I think Michigan fans have is, I think you got that coach that year in, year out could win you 9 or 10 games, but you don't have Dabo Swinney. And that's the problem in that Dabo Swinney, look, he's got a run now and potentially has another one coming this year. He's been in those games. He's beaten the big dogs. Dabo Swinney is what you guys want. You guys want Nick Saban. You guys want Urban Meyer, but they don't have it. But at the same time, we're State fans. So I look across the way and I go, damn, 10 wins every year? That's not bad. But I think he might fall under the weight of the expectation that, hey, at Michigan, they view themselves as the Alabama of the Midwest.
It's just ridiculous. And I think, honestly, unless he goes out this year and proves us all wrong, I think it's gonna come out. Michigan is essentially in the same boat as Michigan State in that we have a good coach, we have a very good program, but we are not going to be that team. We're not going to be the team that's competing every year for a national championship. Does it suck? Yes, it does suck. But, I mean, it's not going to ruin my enjoyment of Michigan State, but it does enjoy, it increases my enjoyment because Michigan fans, they are delusional. I think maybe at one point Michigan was this perennial national championship contender. I don't think they've been that as long as I've been alive. Honestly, I mean, even when Lloyd Carr was here, they were really good, but they won one national championship. They're not Alabama, they're not Clemson, they're not any of those teams in the SEC. They're not Florida State, not Oklahoma. So it's like even Notre Dame has been to the national championship since Michigan. If Harbaugh is going to do it, it's going to be this year because I think he's got everything he needs on offense to succeed. He got his quarterback in Shea Patterson, and I think it's ridiculous that he's saying, "Oh, we're going to run Shea Patterson and the other guy out every game." Come on, man. If you have a quarterback, this is the guy who coached Andrew Luck. Would he say that about Andrew Luck when he was at Stanford? That, oh yeah, we got Andrew Luck and we got the guy behind him, and we're gonna trot them both out every game. No, if Shea Patterson is as good as everyone says he is, he should be out there every single play. And I don't know. I honestly, for me, Michigan has to show it to me because I don't believe it. I don't think they have what it takes to go out there and really clear that last hurdle, which is Ohio State. And that's what it's going to have to be every single year. You have to beat Ohio State.
That's exactly what I'm saying, is that you could go out there and replace Jim Harbaugh, and I think it'd be a mistake because it's so hard in this day and age. I think Jim Harbaugh might have 1 or 2 runs in him where he can go out there and actually get to Indy, get to the national title picture, and have a run. Can he win it all? It's so tough, especially with the way the power setup, the power structure. Alabama, Clemson, it's going to be tough to break through. I mean, you really got to have top-end talent. You need a couple more guys that'll transcend the league, and I don't think Michigan has it, or Michigan State. So in terms of looking at the upper echelon, the ceiling for Michigan, I think the ceiling is basically getting to Indy and having an opportunity to win the Big Ten. But again, you got to go through Michigan State, you got to go through Ohio State, and it's tough because many people are talking about the Big Ten in glowing terms. You said it. People are raving about Nebraska, Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota,
PJ Fleck,
Michigan State. It's a tough road to try and get some success, right?
Absolutely, and it's just, I don't think it's going to happen for them. And
thumbs down on Michigan, yeah.
I mean, thumbs down on 10-2 if that's what you're going to say.
Yeah, thumbs down on Big Ten championships, right?
Yeah, that's not what you're playing for.
I think
Big Ten championship's great. I would love for Michigan State to go out and win another Big Ten championship.
Do you see still Ohio State, even though they got a new coach, still being the favorite? Like, they're the top dog in my mind. I mean, Ryan Day's has been there. He's not an outsider.
It sucks for Michigan. You got to be so pissed as a Michigan fan that Urban Meyer's finally gone and Ohio State's still reloading. It doesn't matter. Ohio State is that team. They're the team of the Midwest. And it sucks because they're in Ohio. And Ohio is the worst state in the world. But it's Ohio State. It's Alabama. It's Oklahoma. It's Clemson. It's all those teams. And everybody else is on the outside looking in.
Let's turn our attention to East Lansing. Hush, hush. Everybody's wondering what's going on with that offense. Obviously, the part that's causing everybody to be really critical and skeptical is the fact that Michigan State did not decide to broom everybody out from that offense that barely scored 70 points in 5 games or so last year. I mean, they were like, in the bowl game, they lost 7-6, which was ultimately embarrassing. The last stretch of games, Jason, they barely scored 20 points in any of them.
Brutal to watch.
It was brutal. It was like 14-6, 3. It was so tough, so disheartening because on the other side, you had a defense that was just lights out, world class, top of college football. And you go, man, if you just were average last year, you might have had a chance to get a lot more wins. Will it happen again? I don't think it'll happen again because Brian Lewerke's healthy. He's the key. And my opinion is that Michigan State will be better. I think that they're going to be in the neighborhood of 9-10 wins. The key marquee game for me is how they'll look against Michigan on the road. If they are able to potentially get that W on the road in Ann Arbor, maybe you get that momentum to maybe do some things because a lot of people are starting to sprinkle in some talk like, hey, maybe this 2019 team has the vibe of that 13 team that went to the Rose Bowl.
For Michigan State to be successful this year, I think every game, it's going to be just, we're biting our nails. It's going to be teams that we have no business, letting them stick around, and we're going to be like a touchdown up in fourth quarter and the other team driving. And we're just going to be just praying that, some miracle play for the other team doesn't happen. And, I think they have the ability to go out there and hang with teams, but they're going to need some people to step up. And my 2 biggest things that I want to see improved and where I think Michigan State needs to go back to is your offensive line and the running back. We were known for having some really good offensive lines in the previous years when we were really being successful. And I think we have been decimated by injuries. So it would be nice to get some consistency and maybe go out there, get some more big guys that can actually run block. And then we need to find a running back who can actually be that true,
stud.
Because
I think Ladarius Jefferson could be that guy.
I mean, and maybe he is, but who's running the offense and what are they going to do? Are they going to, if he is the hot hand, are they going to let him go out there and run the ball, 20, 30 times a game? Or are they going to stick it out? And I'm not saying Connor Hayward isn't a bad running back, but if you have a guy who's going to go out there and get you 5 to 7 yards a carry and have home run possibility, that frustrated me for Michigan fans last year when they had Karan Higdon, because I thought Higdon was hands down the best running back on that team. And he's probably the closest outside of Braylon Edwards, where I did a complete 180. The guy's a nice guy, but and he, even though he's a Michigan fan, and he completely tore my heart out. Karan Higdon's probably the closest I've come to actually respecting and liking a Michigan player, just because he's so good. And I want that. I want that for Michigan State. We need, we had so many, Javon Ringer, L.J. Scott, Le'Veon Bell. We need to get back to that standard.
Obviously, we can count on the defense. The offense is going to be the biggest question mark. but we got to ask it before we get out of here, before we wrap up episode 200. If Michigan State does not succeed this year, if they fall short of their goals, if something happens and you see a repeat of what we saw last year, if we see a similar situation where the defense is on point and the offense just doesn't seem like they're taking a step forward, that the offense is similar to last year and the problem on the team, do you start to question Mark D'Antonio and do you say, you know what, it's time for the next level? It's time to move forward? Because I'm starting to think that, you know what, the rumblings are there. This team might have plateaued under Mark D'Antonio. And in the world of coaching, look, no one will ever take away the success that Mark D'Antonio brought. Nobody will ever take away the awesome memories. But at the same time, we don't want to live in the past. We don't live in the past here in the podcast. We're looking to the future. I mean, we're signing up with great entities like Sports Illustrated. We're covering sports. We're having fun. We're doing outings. We're doing great things. We look forward. We don't look backwards. I mean, I do a lot because it's a great thing to do. But we always have to look forward.
It's fun to revel in our misery.
Yeah, I would say this. If Michigan State does not meet their goals and they continue to lose to their rivals like Michigan, I say it's time maybe to potentially go out there and find your Dabo Swinney. Mark D'Antonio is an older coach. He's stuck in his ways. I don't see no razzle-dazzle at Michigan State. I see potentially, do you know who I see as a similar comparison? Les Miles. Because of the fact that at LSU, he had success, he was great, but then towards the end of his tenure at LSU, he just refused to change, and he doubled down on the things that made him unsuccessful. And then midway through a year, boom, he was gone. And I'm starting to see the same kind of trend. It's not being talked about because of the level of success and because of where Mark D'Antonio started and where he brought them, but I'm seeing Les Miles in Mark D'Antonio.
Yeah, and honestly though, it would take a epic failure of a season for there to be any real
That
change.
was last year.
You really it was an epic end of a season, and we all knew there were issues with quarterback, and there were tons of injuries last year, and I think we couldn't feel the team at that point. But continuing onto this season, if we see similar problems, we can generate zero offense. That it would really take an epic failure of a season and unfortunately, I think our defense is going to carry us through a lot of these games. You're going to see low scoring affairs, and it may mask some of the deficiencies if we haven't fixed what our offensive problems are. So it would really take a complete breakdown to have a change at the end of this season or even during midseason.
Okay, so you're not willing to pull the trigger just yet.
I mean, I've been on record saying that it's essentially Mark D'Antonio's job until he wants to retire.
Oh, look at you, Jason. I give you a lot of credit, man. We've recorded 200 of these podcasts. Want to show love to Vinny Stubbs. He was here early on. You guys brought this to the table, and you've made this project really fun, really successful. And to continue on when Vinny went on to bigger and better things, it's been great, Jason. 200 down. Hope we can do this for 200 more. It really is a highlight of my week, even though I'm doing 50 other things. When I do get a chance, whether it be a half hour to talk sports with you, I really do appreciate it. You're a part of the network, obviously. You get the emails. Only a certain special group of people get the special emails that I send out. I don't know if you're reading them, but they're funny to me. I like typing them up for those that don't know. I send the guys emails, and sometimes I manipulate some of the facts and things like that, and I think it's funny. I entertain myself. So you're part of the family, and it was great to spend a baseball game with you and the missus, giving you guys that opportunity. And bigger and better things are definitely coming for the podcast, and you're a part of it. You're part of the history of the podcast. You're a part of the history of Detroit Sports Radio because you got yanked off the air, and you shared that story right the next week. You were here. You were like, I was on the air talking sports, and the man came and ripped me off the air. And not too many people can share that story, and you did on the Detroit Sports Podcast. Awesome stuff, sir. Episode 200 coming to a close. I look forward to talking to you next time.
Indeed, whether it's on the phone or in here, I always enjoy talking with you. And you gave me all these praises, and I got to say, you're probably the hardest working podcaster in Detroit.
Word up.
I've seen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for downloading the latest edition of Motor City Sports Rant. Follow Jason on Twitter at Jarvie the King. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you agree or disagree with anything that we've said, feel free, message. We read it all. If you like it, don't like it. If you feel like Mark D'Antonio is a saint and you just want to put a statue up and that I'm crazy, feel free, message. That's why we love doing this podcast. Talk soon.
Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.
Fellas, I want to tell you about a product that can improve your performance in the bedroom. And what better way to improve the quality of your life than to please the woman of your dreams? Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. Blue Chew is the fast and easy solution for any man looking to enhance their performance and step up their game. You don't have to be one of those guys that finishes quickly, or you don't have to be one of those guys that, at the end of the day, regrets not having a great sex life. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code DETROIT. All you got to do is pay the $5 shipping and handling fee. Again, that's BlueChew.com, promo code DETROIT to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.